What's going on, guys? Rooted MMA back in the building here for another episode of Octagon Chronicles. Always joined by my co-producer, or co-anchor over here,
Yes,
Joshua Beasy Byers, and our illustrious producer who we've made do a lot of extra work behind the scenes to get this bad boy up and rolling, Micah, the young one, the Don himself.
Micah the Don.
And we have a very special guest in studio today. Flyweight freaking absolute stud champion, rising star in the UFC, Jefe, Jeff Molina.
Welcome.
What's up, guys? Thank you. What an honor. What
Welcome,
a treat.
man.
What a treat.
So, Jeff, you had a pretty awesome weekend this past weekend at FAC 12. Not only did you get to see your gym members at Glory go out and put on a spectacle of just absolute martial arts artistic ability, but you actually got to step up on the mic, which you've been doing a lot lately. So how was the overall weekend from start to finish for you?
It was awesome, man. It was really cool. Obviously, that was a big opportunity for a lot of those guys on that card. Probably the biggest card here in Kansas City besides the UFC event a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So I would say locally, probably the biggest card in Kansas City. And it was sick, man. I was able to have a pretty good seat that night, commentating. And a lot of people had a good opportunity and they took advantage of that, man. Dana White was in the house, the Nelk boys were in the house, and one of our fighters got a contract that night, and I was Bulgarian, and then a lot of them took advantage of that opportunity by winning, by putting on a performance, and it was cool to see firsthand.
I mean, they didn't just put on performances. I think that all but one. I think Glory went 7 for 8 in wins. Starting off the card with, or I guess the main card with L. Wagman standing guillotine.
That was,
which
nice.
I feel like just from watching the men fight, watching the women fight, that's not something you see a lot, I feel like, in the women's when they fight. So that submission to me was extremely impressive. I don't know what you thought about it. You were right there. You got to sit sideline. So, I mean, kind of what was the spectacle like, knowing that all of your teammates were successful or almost all of them were successful all night, and all of them showed out in many different ways?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's sick. In Elle's case, she's nasty, bro. She's always looking for the finish. Atom weight at 105. That's not very common, right? We see a lot of decisions, but she's always looking for the finish. She's nasty off the back. She's like a little backpack anytime she takes your back, and she's choked a lot of chicks out that way. And her striking's getting better. Just always looking for the finish. So I think I said it on the broadcast, but I really think the UFC should look into getting 105. The argument of those chicks not getting finish wins, I think, is out of the question. Like there's a lot of chicks that do look for the finish and are nasty in there. And 145 being the weight class it is now, like with not many people, I think there's like 4 fighters in there, bro. So I think let's make away with 45 and bring in 105. I think that'd be good.
I think that's always kind of the debate is, there's 3 weight classes that have a lot of speculation about them. It's the 105 for the women. It's the 145 for the women, which, like you said, is very light. There's not many fighters in it. And then super heavyweight for guys that are above 260, which, again, you see a lot of guys that can cut down, but you see a lot of guys that could fight at 280.
Yeah.
What do you think that 105 division for the women is the most necessary of all the weight classes that needs to be done?
Yeah, I think it makes sense, man. 105, super necessary. 105 to 135 should be the weight class. At 145, man, there's not many girls that can fit that weight class correctly, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times it's like the bad side of it, right? Where it's that chubbier soccer mom that can make 145, but she's not really an athlete. So.
Yeah, not necessarily healthy.
They can still hit my DMs. Those ones, but
yeah. So instead of them fighting, they should slide in Josh's DMs, and I think 105 should be introduced to the UFC.
what got you into like commentating? How did that begin for you? I know you train with Laura Sanko, who's probably one of the best at what she does, and a lot of respect for her, and she's getting a lot of respect nationally with her, commentating, her ability, her skill. What got you? Was it a little bit of Laura, or was it something that you reached out and said, I want to do this? I know like financial freedom is a big goal of yours with the UFC, and is this like an avenue you see yourself going down, commentating?
Yeah, at first it was just something that was offered to me. Joe asked me if I'd like to commentate, and I said, do I have to? And he said, yeah. But yeah, I love fights, man. I love fighting, obviously, right? Otherwise I wouldn't do it. It's something I've kind of obsessed over the last 10 years. So I can talk fights all day, just in a professional setting. That was the only thing that worried me, like not saying anything like get me canceled on air or on a broadcast.
Is it harder than you thought?
No,
or
man.
does it come a little more natural?
Yeah, it comes a little more natural than I thought. The first time I still get super nervous, of course, but first time I was freaking out, man. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna say something stupid. I guarantee it, and I did. But it wasn't too bad, right? And then I can talk fights all day.
What'd you say?
it was like something, I forgot what it was. It was something where I'm like, he's finishing on his face or something. I'm like, oh God. I even tweeted about him like, dude, I really said finishing on his face on the broadcast. But man, it's fun, dude, and it's definitely something I can see myself doing both in English and Spanish in the future, hopefully for the UFC. Yeah, I've really got a liking for it now, man. I enjoy doing the commentary and watching fights and seeing my teammates firsthand performing, and it helps me from like a fighter's perspective too, man. Like it makes me watch fights a little differently. Like when I'm talking about these fights and I got to break down certain positions that a casual fan might not know. So yeah, I really do enjoy it, man.
That's actually one of the next questions I was going to ask you is, now that you have this, instead of just being the perspective of a spectator, now you actually have the perspective of somebody who has to be critical of what they're seeing. Kind of like watching film, but how is it from commentating and then actually being in the position to the fight? What exactly are you able to change, or what exactly has it kind of opened your mind to?
Yeah, there's a lot of different I guess logistics about commentating. Like you want to be critical, but not overly critical, right? Like I try not to talk about myself ever on the broadcast. Like there's nothing more annoying than a fighter like, oh, when I was in his position, it's like, shut up, man.
Yeah, you're not. That's why you're commentating.
Yeah. So I try not to talk about myself, but it's also like I try to think of what I would do in that position, and then I talk about that. I'm like, maybe fighter B should be looking to post on the head and then put his hip down and look to get up. Little things like that just make you look at it differently. So not being overly critical, not letting the fight breathe a little bit is a big point too, man. I feel like a lot of commentators think they should be talking the whole time, right? And there's a beauty to the sounds of a fight, right? Just the thuds of a strike or a leg kick, just like let it breathe sometimes, and not being super nitpicky about things at times, and not being super dry either, right? There's times for jokes and stuff. So also conversing with your partner, right? Sean Wheelock does.
Wheelock's great.
Yeah, he's his triple OG mate.
How easy is he to work with?
Dude, it's so easy. Just I think me and him have a really good dynamic. And Julian, of course, that 3-man booth we had on Sunday was fun. Mm-hmm. Julian's like one of my really good friends, so it was cool to just kind of like, I didn't think I was like watching fight. It felt like I was just kicking it back on a Saturday night watching fights with my buddies. So
I think at the end of the day, that's probably what it should be. I've done a little bit of commentating back in college for football, and that was one of the things that
talking about yourself on the broadcast.
It's only relevant because of what you learned. So like I kind of went to school for that, and what you've pretty much hit on everything that they talked about is letting a fight be like, don't feel like you constantly need to be talking. Don't like let the play happen and everything, and then also knowing when you can kind of be funny, knowing when you can kind of do certain things. Did they have you do like any type of take a class or kind of do any test runs, or did they just throw you right in the fire and say, hey, get it, go get it? On the
job learning, baby. Joe just said, hey man, we have this opportunity. X person can't do it. I forgot who was supposed to do it at that time, and he's like, you're a pretty well-spoken kid, and give it a shot.
That's freaking sick. So, the funniest part on the broadcast was probably the nipple piercing part of I think it's Caleb Williams, but Wheelock nailed it. I don't know. He's like, we got a nipple piercing. Like, did you see it?
Yeah, I even had a little funny comment that someone tweeted about, and I like reposted it or retweeted it. It was like Sean mentioned the nipple piercing that Caleb Williams had, and the referee obviously noticed it. He had to take it off cage side, and I was like, I hate when that happens. And just little things like that, man. It's fun.
That was funny. And you were I noticed I watch MMA on Point a lot. I think a lot of MMA fans do. They have great videos, and they had the top 15 prospects this year. Grant Dawson was on that list last year, and you were on that list this year. Do you watch a lot of MMA on Point? But how cool was that to you to see yourself on that list on a big YouTube channel?
Yeah, I definitely saw that. I don't watch a lot of MMA on Point. I just saw that I was tagged in something. I checked it out, and it was cool, man. It was really well put together. I'll probably be checking out more of their stuff, but it was sweet, man. To get mentioned on a list like that. It's been cool this last couple months after this last fight to kind of get some recognition. I felt like what I've done the last 10 years have just started to pay off with these lists, and it's cool. It's cool, and I texted Krause almost this exact thing. I was like, man, because he said, man, it's really cool to see you get on these lists, on the ESPN 25 under 25.
Michael Chandler gave you a shout out.
And it's sick, man. And I was like, dude, it's cool to get recognized for the last 10 years of work I put in.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's it's cool for a day, and I'm not saying it's not cool, but it's I don't know, I don't let it get to me, I guess. Like I don't let it get to my head. Like it's cool. It lasts a day or two, and I'm like, man, I got mentioned on this list, but like the next dude I fight's not gonna give a fuck that I was on the 25 list.
Well, and some people probably eat it up.
We
You get a guy like Conor McGregor who probably thrives off, kind of his name and the constantly being mentioned. That you don't strike me as that kind of guy who's just like, I need that. That's gonna like you. Every time we've met, I don't know, many times now at this point. You were on the show actually right after your Aori fight.
Orochi Lang, you told us the correct pronunciation.
Oh yeah, what is it?
Orochi Lang.
Orochi Lang.
Okay, yeah, because they've got on Tapology it's backwards. I forget that's always backwards for. But you just don't seem like that type of guy. Like you said, it's fun for a minute, but it doesn't stop you from, or distract you, I guess, from the hard work that you've put in. And we actually talked to Ghost Samurai himself, Trey Ogden, and he had a funny comment that he said, a lot of people talk about overnight success. Oh man, he was an overnight success. He said, my overnight success took 10 years. And you just said, it's finally good to see your recognition after 10 years of work. Some people might not know who you are and they're like, oh yeah, Jeff Molina came out of nowhere. And really it's like, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't come out of nowhere. This was something that you manifested. You put in 10 years of work, and now people are finally starting to see how deadly you really are.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's also like, I don't let it get to my head, right? Like this is what got me to the dance. This is like the nose to the grindstone, like chop wood, carry water thing. Like that's what got me here. So
people like watching you fight.
Yeah, and I think, dude, my style's been entertaining since the jump, right?
Hell
since
yeah,
15. I don't know if it's because like I'm a little crazy or something, but that's been like my fighting style since I was a teenager. So it's cool to get mentioned on this list. I just don't let it get too into my head,
Yeah, you get a lot of love, and you've been getting a lot of love over the past couple months, but you also show a lot of love, and I think like that's really cool, like including to us, like you come on the podcast and stuff. We really appreciate that. Is that something you actively try to do, is just give that back to the fans that show love? Yeah,
for sure. I don't think the sport should change you. So if like the sport shouldn't turn you into an asshole, and I don't think I've ever been an asshole. I think I'm a pretty nice dude. So yeah, I've seen a lot of fighters kind of take it and it blows up their head, and when they get any kind of success, and I just don't want that to be me, man. Like you hear of all these people like asking certain celebrities for, and I'm not saying I'm a celebrity at all, but like asking certain famous people for, and again, I'm not saying I'm famous, but asking certain people for autographs, and they're like, they all have this asshole story, like, oh, this guy treated me like shit, or I have a couple buddies that like try to get autographs from certain people, and they were treated like shit, and you always hear those stories, man.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be that guy.
Be careful, yeah.
I don't want to be that guy, and it's been cool, man. Like I've been getting recognized. This is like
in public, yeah,
man. Like, dude, like I was just in Houston, got recognized a couple times, and I was in Hawaii. That was probably the craziest one. Is like I'm inside the country, but outside the country at the same time, And just out of mask on, I'm walking around with my folks. We're at like a little mall area. We just landed, and some guy's like, "Hey, are you Jeff Molina?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, I am," dude, with the mask on, bro. So stuff like that, that's pretty cool to me, man. Like that's it's like surreal to get that. So yeah, I enjoy stuff like that, man. It's
so
cool.
You just rip the mask off. You're like, here I am. It is me.
Yeah.
How cool is that for you to be able to like take your parents on a Hawaii vacation, just like you three? Probably something you've always dreamed of. Like I could go anytime, but I don't like flying. So that's the only reason I haven't been to Hawaii yet. But like, how cool is that to like take your parents out on that nice trip?
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool.
If you could like put it into like words, what is that feeling? Is it just something you've always wanted to do, or?
Yeah, man. It's for sure been something I dreamt of, like literally have had dreams over, So to be in a position where, like, I didn't grow up with much, man. So it's really cool to be in a position where I can finally like give back to my folks. And yeah, I mean, I get to do what I love every day. Like every day I get to wake up, and I got like my dream car at 24, and I'm not trying to flex or brag, but it's like, it's just really fucking cool to be in a position where I can like give back to my parents and take them on a vacation like that. So
what did you do in Hawaii? Like, what was the coolest thing you did?
We did a lot of touristy shit. So we went surfing, we hiked, went to the beaches. Just a lot of touristy things.
Kick back, relax.
Any like spearfishing or like deep sea fishing at all?
We didn't. Oh, we went snorkeling. Snorkeling. Not as cool as deep sea fishing.
Hey, that's okay.
Yeah,
Still
we
fun.
went snorkeling, and then, that was fun, man. It was cool. I've never been snorkeling, and
Was it scary?
No,
One time
not
I've ever
really.
been snorkeling, I almost died. So
oh shit,
I was like a kid, and I didn't understand the concept of like water can't get in the thing.
yeah.
I like
You
left
just
the
dove
group.
head
I was like
first?
drowning. I like left the group. I'm like, I'm going back. My
Yeah.
parents lost me. It was crazy.
Oh jeez.
So I'm a little scared of snorkeling.
yeah.
Any Tinder swiping in Hawaii?
No, I think I was off Tinder.
No.
Yeah.
What's the ladies liking about Jeff Molina? Like, do the girls come up and are they just like, they're like, hey man, aren't you Jeff Molina?
That's never happened.
Whoa.
It's obviously
That was good. Yeah, that was good.
That was kind of impressive.
lots of practice.
Man, no, I haven't had that reaction, but the blue check mark definitely helps, guys. When I got that sometime last year, I was like, whoa. The DMs got a lot nicer, and the response to the DMs got a lot nicer.
I'm sure. Did you have to apply for the blue check mark, or did they give it to you?
They gave it to me. Yeah. We got the management group that I'm with has like a guy that does all that. So I just reach out to whoever they have to, and
you get it if you're like at risk of being impersonated.
Yeah,
I think that's the main criteria, and so like
that makes sense. Yeah.
Josh doesn't have a lot of people trying to impersonate him,
that's why I don't
so
have
he's not worried about it.
Not there yet.
We should change that.
You got like I would say you have some stardom right now, but you have like a big potential stardom. Does that like ever? Yeah, you said it a little. Does that ever get to your head a little bit that you could be a really big star in the sport and potentially just make even bigger waves than you're already making? Like, do you think about that a lot?
I wouldn't say I think about that necessarily. One thing that does cross my mind is like, I know all this is gone. Like the second I lose a fight, and that's how the sport goes. It's like, what have you done for me lately, sport? And I'm okay with that. Like, I know that like in the sport to be successful, you have to win. And I know like when you lose a fight, it's the opposite of that. Like they don't recognize you on any list. They don't put you on anything. You don't get any attention, and that's just part of the game.
Yeah, it is.
Does it
tough reality?
Is it pressure filled to know that could be potentially the case? Like, hey, if I lose one, this could be all over. Or have you always looked at it like, hey, if I like, let's say down the road I do end up taking my first loss, now the game resets. Now it's almost charged up to 11 because I have to get back to that certain point to prove that was a fluke.
Yeah, man. For me, it's.
I know we're talking a lot of like down the road stuff.
Yeah. For me, it's. I don't try to win a fight any more than I have in the past. Right. Like like the Contender Series fight wasn't more important than the regional fight before that, and then the regional fight before that. Like I try to win every fight. It doesn't change if I'm fighting in front of Dana or if it's my debut in front of 15,000 fans or whatever the circumstance is. Like the want to win is always there. So that's just the way I look at it going into every fight. Like there's no extra pressure knowing like, oh, if I lose this fight, this is gone or that's gone. It's like the goal is to win each and every time, and it's not more or less because of the circumstances. Like it kind of sucks that half our check relies on that.
Yeah.
And the goal is just to always win.
Yeah, and you've been on a streak of wins. The last time you lost, and you hear those stories with like the up-and-coming fighters on the broadcast are like, oh, this guy hasn't lost in 9 years or like 10 years or something like that. You haven't lost since 2017. Do you have to take yourself to that place sometimes when you're getting into a UFC fight? Because I was a regional scene split decision. You probably, maybe could have won that fight. I didn't watch it, but sorry, Nate Smith. But do you have to take yourself to that place mentally sometimes? Like, I don't want to feel that, or are you just like, I'm going to continue? I guess that's like a hard thing to do is when you're on this streak, you're always thinking of winning, but do you have to think about losing to do that or no?
It's not something that crosses my mind a lot, but it has crossed my mind recently. Last year I had a teammate lose, and I was with Grant, and then we both kind of talked about that. Like, dude, like seeing him experience that loss of just all the emotions that go through loss, right? You got a guy like crying right in front of you, and you're just like, fuck, dude. Like, you know, watching a teammate lose, all the hard work he puts in the gym. Everything he sacrifices. That he lives and sleeps in the gym. So, like, it sucks. And that's, like, a good reminder. And I had a teammate lose a week or two ago, and that was another good reminder to, like, I know exactly what he's gone through. Like, I was once waking up asking my coach what happened, at 19 years old in my pro debut, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I got choked unconscious. That's what happened. So those are solid reminders, right? Because you try not to think about losing too much until you see someone that you care about lose in front of you, and then it's like it's a good reminder that, like, the sport's unforgiving, man, and anything can happen on any given night, and the margin of error is so small in the sport, bro. Like, more than any other sport, in my opinion. Like, you got 4-ounce gloves on, and like anything and anybody can knock you out, dude. I preach this a lot in one of my kickboxing classes that I teach. It's like a 7-year-old girl can knock you out. She hits you in the right spot at the right time with 4-ounce gloves on, if you're not expecting it. So it doesn't take much. The margin of error is really small, so it just keeps you honest, like when you see something like that.
That's true. I forgot about that. Like, you got such a tight-knit team. Like, that probably is a constant
Dude,
reminder.
You go through the same emotions as your fighter, man. I've been kind of getting into more of a coaching role in the last year, and I enjoy coaching and cornering. So yeah, that's something like we talk about all these different perspectives, right? Like a commentating perspective, a fighter's perspective, and then there's a coaching perspective. And on top of that, if you're a degenerate like I am, there's the gambling perspective. So all those are pretty different. And when you watch fights or how you watch fights, and that's just another one of those.
That's sweet.
So since we haven't, this is the first time we've actually got to sit down and actually speak with you. We've had passings and whatnot since the De Silva fight or whatever his name is. Lacerda De Silva.
You can't just change your name like that, man.
You can't
in the middle
just change your name, man.
I might
like
change
the
my
artist
next fight
formerly
week.
known.
Yeah, right.
So
Mouse cop.
we talked to you before that. You were on the show before that fight. Obviously, you go out and have a spectacular finish. Since then, all of these things have been happening with your life. You've been able to go to Hawaii. I believe you got the bonus that night. If I'm not mistaken, was the one before?
Yes, I got the
Gotcha.
bonus
Okay,
I think
cool.
I should have got it for that night.
I thought you should have too, because when we
honest.
first saw it, I think even the announcers were just like,
yeah,
that was
so
clean.
little backstory of why I didn't get it.
yeah. Do explain.
The main event that night was Marvin Vettori versus Paulo Costa. They would have got fight of the night. However, Costa missed weight, and they didn't want to reward him.
That was such a
He purposely missed weight.
That was the craziest.
The guy was close.
So instead of giving them fight of the night, they just gave Vettori a performance bonus, which stole it from me. And it sucked.
That does suck, but
I was a little salty for a couple.
So you
weeks
also
after.
don't like Paulo Costa.
Yeah, not a fan.
yeah,
not
Vettori deserved it a little bit because he went through
for sure,
so
man.
much shit.
But like main event, he's making over 6 figures.
Yeah, that's true.
Give it to the poor little brown kid. Come on.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
come
You
on, dude.
gotta feed the
Second
fishes,
fight in the
man.
UFC, and I thought they were gonna try to use that to like build me, right? Like this guy's a bonus friendly fighter.
Yes.
First round of that fight was very high pace, back and forth. Guy threw up a lot of good submission attempts, and the first round was super high paced, and I go out there and crack him in the second, and TKO him. Or honestly, I think the fight should have been called off the fight
Off the
could have
knockdown.
been called
You wanted
off
that
the
walk-off.
knockdown.
Yeah.
And then the 44 unanswered shots after that. I thought I'd deserve the bonus, but yeah, no point of crying over spilled milk. There's the next one.
Well, I know watching the fight, I could have sworn, and that's just bad journalism on my end, that you got it, because I was like, I watched the fight. I know what happened. I saw the whole card.
Yeah.
So since then, has anything changed as far as outside? Obviously, you're doing a lot of things financially. I know you've talked about wanting to be financially independent, financially, conservative, because this sport is very volatile. It could, you never know what's going to happen in the sport. So are there things that you've done? Do you have somebody that you talk to, management team that you work with? Is it more like you just handle your stuff on your own? Do you have your own account? Like, are you a big investor in NFTs or something? Everybody does that shit nowadays, but what's kind of your status with financial stability?
Yeah. We're fortunate enough to have head honcho James Krause as a coach, and he does a really good job of make sure we have that stuff down packed, man, like in line.
Does he have a guy, or does he teach you guys like actually how to do it by yourselves?
He doesn't have like classes or anything, but with conversation, and I've gotten to get to talk to him a lot more in the last year and a half, and just pick his brain about certain things. And he's a very busy guy, but he'll make time. Like if you ask him for something, like if you're like, hey, can we go out to lunch and talk about X thing? Like he'll make time. So
Jason Witt said the exact same thing.
Really cool.
Yeah. So yeah, fortunate enough to have someone like him who's been through the ringer, who's another guy that didn't have much growing up, and has been able to turn that around, and now he's very financially successful, and it's good to pick his brain. And like, dude, when I got the bonus, like I looked at my bank account, I was like, whoa, I've never had that amount of money before, and had I not had someone like James to pick his brain about and kind of tell me what to do with that amount of money, I would have blown it all on shoes and watches and all sorts of things. So I'm glad to have someone like him who's like, hey man, like there's something called taxes, bud, and this is what you should do with your money. So I just, whatever he says, I do.
Uncle Sam's a bitch sometimes.
Do you have any NFTs?
I don't, man.
No?
I've been hit up probably more than a handful of times about NFT opportunities. I'm just like, I know what it is, but I also don't know what it is. Like I've had the conversation. James and I actually were talking NFTs in Houston a week or two ago, and I was like shaking my head like, yeah, I get that. And afterwards I'm like, dude, I don't get that. He's like, honestly, me either. So yeah, it's I'm looking more into the real estate side of things. I think that's a path that I'm gonna take.
In the metaverse, or
not in the metaverse? Maybe eventually one day I'll be Snoop Dogg's neighbor or something. But dude, you only get paid when you fight, right?
Yeah.
And I've had a bit of a layoff since October, just dealing with a couple injuries I had prior to that fight. So getting that dealt with, I'm looking at a May return, but dude, that's a long time to not be getting paid, and this is what I do full time now. I was able to quit my job back in August. So yeah, looking at different revenues and passive income. Like when I quit my job, it was one of the biggest worries, and I had this talk with James. I'm like, hey dude, I'm quitting on Friday, and I'm fucking terrified. Like I could slip on a banana peel tomorrow, tear my ACL, and not have any income coming in for a year.
Where were you working?
I was working at T-Mobile.
Okay.
I was slinging them phones. Yeah, I was a cell phone or a mobile expert is what they call it.
over the counter,
Yeah.
under the counter. What's it?
It was a good gig, man. They were super supportive. I was there for 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. All of my coworkers came to my fights. The managers would come to my fights.
So-
They'd give me the time off I needed for training. It was cool, man, and the pay was decent. Like you got paid commission plus hourly. So the pay was actually pretty good. Just with fighting at the highest level, you want to be able to commit your life to fighting, and I felt like that was the right thing I needed to do. And luckily, I had that bonus in my first fight, which kind of gave me a little backboard to do that. But yeah,
breathing room.
yeah, dude. But I was fucking terrified, like for that reason of like I could get injured tomorrow and not fight for a year and not have any passive income, and that's when I became a degenerate. And I had that talk with James,
Hell
and he
yeah.
was like, "Hey, man, let's." We talked about a couple things of ways I can get income or revenue, and that was one of them. And it's been,
And he gave you the 3 picks for that weekend, and it
dude,
never
it's been
stopped.
doing pretty. Like I've been doing pretty well. Like it's kind of like my main source of income when I'm not fighting. So it's something I spend a lot of time doing every week. I've gotten pretty good at
A
it.
lot of research.
A lot of research, like hours a week, where I'm watching tape, I'm watching film, and I did that prior, and now I just do it a lot more because there's money on the line, of course. And I kind of watch it from a betting perspective, like we talked about. Like there's the fighters, coaching, and then a betting perspective. And I watch it from a bettor's perspective where I'm looking at their tapology and I'm looking at their level of competition of who they've lost to. Even if they lost to good people, that's valuable. Or if they beat good people. So, yeah, man, betting's something that I've kind of grown fond of in the last, since August, and it's been doing pretty well.
Yeah, that's dope. Like, and I would say like you're after the first fight, I said you're a bona fide UFC fighter. And now, like, after the second one, you knock a guy out, it just feels like you're cemented as a flyweight in this division. People talk about you when they talk about the flyweight division. And that's what I feel like I want to ask is, like, what do you think's next? Who do you think's next? Because you're starting to get to that point where, people recognize you as a real dude in this division. And there's some names up there around the top 15 that Jeff Molina wants to take a crack at. And
Yeah.
is there anyone in specific that you're looking at, or you're just kind of letting the manager and that play out?
Yeah. I'm not too there's not any names that come to mind that like I want to call out, but there's a couple fights that intrigue me. A lot of the division's already booked, man, and honestly this division's not that steep. Man, I wasn't really happy with my debut, and I didn't really I wasn't happy with it, and I was getting a lot of attention for the debut just because it was like a banger of a fight, and I never liked that fight. I felt like I gave like a half-assed performance, and just this last one is what like put me into like even telling myself like I'm a UFC fighter now. Now like who I want to fight next, there's not many people to like choose from. So people that aren't booked are O'Day Osborne. I like that fight a lot. He's coming off a win. And then Malcolm Gordon fought last weekend. He's coming off a win. I'm not sure if the UFC is looking. This is what they usually do: is they're looking to match up someone who just won with somebody else that just won. But this division's not steep enough to do that. So I don't know if they want to match me up with someone that just lost. Those two fights intrigue me. Tyson Nam's another fight that intrigues me. Just for the danger factor of him. He's got that one-shot knockout power you don't see a lot at flyweight. Excuse me. Zaruk Adeshev was scheduled to fight twice. He's coming off a win. I think third time's a charm if they want to run that up. But to be honest, not really a call out. Like whoever they want to give me.
Those are good names.
I thought
O'Day Osborne's fast as
Yeah,
shit.
he's good, man. He's a solid southpah. I like that fight too.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna
Me
pull
too, I
the
like all of them.
whole the baddie. Like, I'm not gonna call you out. You gotta call me out.
Yeah, man.
You gotta give me the recognition.
These are just names that are available. So
Yeah.
looking at who's not booked. Yeah, I'll fight any one of those guys. But to be honest, if they match me up with somebody other than those people, I'm cool with that too. Just timeline-wise, I'm looking at May. So as long as it's in that month, I'm there.
I think a lot of, and I know we got to get you out of here soon because you got somewhere to go. But
you're good.
I think if you look at a lot of like things that fans don't really get to see as the behind, why don't they make this fight? Why don't they make this fight? There's so much logistics going on with people that have already set up different fights, people that are dealing with injuries, people that are wanted a longer rest. Like, so is that weird when you have all the, you hear the kind of the outside fans talking about certain things and you're just like, this is not going to happen. Like, it's just not the way it's going to be. Yeah,
you're right, man. Like logistically, there's so much, bro. Like they look at fucking Twitter followers, they look at engagement, like on matchup wise, which is crazy. And a lot of fans don't know that. But I kind of grew up in that generation of like talking shit on Call of Duty lobbies on Xbox. So like, it doesn't really bother me, man. I enjoy the social media banter, the trolling, the good part of it too, with the fans like supporting you, and that's cool to me. Yeah, I enjoy all of it, even the bad parts. So, yeah, you're right in the fact that like some fans don't know the behind the scenes of how these fights are matched up and how much say you actually have and who you're gonna fight. So, yeah, it doesn't really affect me.
So, why can't you make a flight on time? Like,
That's a great
what
question,
is it about you that just I follow you all, obviously you post on Instagram and Twitter and everything, and we go back and forth, and I think you've missed like 6 flights. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, man. I have a problem. I'm glad you called me out for it. No, so this time I actually had a good excuse. I was pretty drunk. I was extremely fucked up.
For the last flight.
This one from Houston.
Okay.
Not this Monday, but the Monday before. My buddy, who I was actually talking about earlier, flew out to Jacksonville for my debut. Wanted me to come drink that night. And I was too concussed to go drink with him. So I felt like I owed him one, He's been trying to get me to drink for the last 4 years.
Good guy, Jeff, man.
I'm always in fight camp whenever he wants to like hang out. He's from Houston, so he lives in Houston, works at the airport. And finally, not in fight camp. It was after my buddy Micah's fight, and I was there an extra day. I was like, hey, let's hang out. He's like, let's do it, man. We went to a taco joint, got some frozen margaritas. 3 of those in. I was a little tipsy. We get to his car. He has a bottle of Hennessy's. My first time drinking Hennessy.
Really? What'd you think?
It's gross. Nasty.
It's gross.
Nasty.
Cognac.
But we threw that on the frozen margarita, mixed it in there. And then we went to a brewery, had some appetizers.
Okay.
Drank a couple beers. And First we went to a bar, had some appetizers, drank a couple beers. Then we went to a brewery, had a couple beers. At this point, pretty wasted.
Feeling it.
Yeah. But I'm a responsible adult. I'm like, hey, man, I got to get to the airport. He's like, I got you. I get to the airport about 2 hours before my flight. And I meet a fan, which is cool. This is what I was telling you guys about. They're like, dude, are you Jeff Molina? It's like, hell yeah, I am. I'm pretty drunk. He's like, when are you fighting again? And I'm like slurring my words. I'm like, I'm probably fighting in May. He's like, sick, dog. And he like posted on Instagram. Anyway, I get to my gate. I'm a little sleepy. I'm a little tired. I'm going to lay my head down. But I knew my flight was coming up. So I set an alarm for 7:45. I'm supposed to be at the gate at 7:50. Turns out I set it for 7:45 a.m. So I woke up after my flight. And I'm like, oh, God, this just happened. I run to the guy, and I'm like, dude, is my flight here? And he's like, nah, dude, we just closed it. I'm like, well, can you open it? And again, I was pretty drunk. So
I'm Jeff Molina, bro. Let me on the plane.
He's like, dude, we just closed it. I'm like, well, can you open it? He's like, no, dude, that's not how that works. So, but dude, this is cool. So he's like, go to customer service, see what they can do for you. I don't think they're gonna be able to do much. I go to customer service, and I was wearing like the UFC COVID mask, like the one they give you on fight week. I get to customer service. The guy that's helping me is like, all right, what's your name? I give him my ID, and then his manager comes over, and he's like, do you fight for the UFC? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, what's your name? And I'm like, Jeff Molina. And then the guy has my ID, so he's like, Google him. So he like Googles me and like pulls up something. I can't see it because it's behind the desk. But he's like, oh my God, that's you, man. He's like, can I get a picture with you? I'm like, of course, man. I'm still pretty drunk at this point. So take a picture with him, and the manager goes to his employee. He's like, do you want a picture with him too? He's like, yeah, of course. So I take a picture with his employee, and he's like, man, we don't usually do this, but since it wasn't United's fault that you missed your flight, but we're going to get you a hotel room for the night, and then we're going to give you like $30 worth of food comps. I was like, let's go. Probably the coolest thing that ever happened to me, dog.
Everything happens for a reason, man.
Yeah.
So there's a reason you missed your flight.
That was cool, man. So
you got to meet two
What
more
were you?
fans.
Did you need to be somewhere like urgently? Like, did you miss anything on the other side of that flight?
I teach a Monday night class at Glory. Luckily, someone covered that.
Okay.
But yeah, about that. Other than that, it was was good.
Well,
It was good.
Yeah.
Just had to stay the night in Houston.
Well, I would say switching. I would say your debut reminded me a lot of David Onama's, and now I said you were a bona fide UFC fighter after your fight. I think David Onama's a bona fide UFC fighter after his fight with Mason Jones, and that's one I really can't wait for coming up in like a couple weeks.
Yeah, February 19th. Not this Saturday, but the next Saturday.
Yep.
I'm excited for it, man. The odds just came out, minus 135. I hammered David Onama. I put a lot of money on him. I'm cornering him that fight or this fight. And I'm excited, man. It's a really good matchup stylistically, and David's a dog, man. I'm excited to see what he does at 145.
Yeah. I mean, his first fight when he came out, I mean, to go up against a guy like Mason Jones and to take the fight on such short notice and to put on that kind of spectacle, yeah, I mean, technically he got the L, but I don't think in anybody's mind who knows who David Onama was in that fight that he actually, I think everybody was like, dude, this guy won, regardless if you even got the L, because you just put everybody on notice in that division.
Sure. 100%.
Especially to do it so quick. Real quick, I know you're into the betting. Picks, like your locks for UFC this weekend, 271, Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker.
Man, I played Bobby Green. I put a unit on Bobby Green.
Damn it.
I like Bobby Green in that fight. He's a stud, man. He's good. I think his striking's underrated. He looked really good against Fiziev. Dude, he has this really good ability to roll with punches that I think not a lot of people talk about. Like, he doesn't really
get with his hands down.
He doesn't really get hit clean a lot. And when he does get hit, he sees it coming and kind of rolls with it to take some shock off of it. And I think that's underrated. So yeah, I like Bobby, and then I played Max Grissom.
Maxine Grishin?
That guy. Played that guy against William Knight. I don't think Knight's that good. I think he hits hard. He's short and stocky for the weight class. But I like Grishin. I like Grissom in that fight. It's the bigger octagon. I think he's going to use that range. I don't like betting on people whose one chance is to find him, to crack him, unless their name is Francis Ngannou. So, I like his chances a lot in that fight. So I played him, and then I played Arlovsky. I like Arlovsky in that fight.
Giving it to the vet.
I can't believe you're going against Nasty Nasrat.
He's good, man. He's good. But I did play Bobby. I like Bobby in that fight.
I like.
I think he's gonna beat him in a close decision. I don't think it's gonna be like here and here, but I think it's gonna be a little. People can't see my hands, or can they?
Yeah, no.
Let's go.
Hey, you're on camera, baby.
I forgot where I am,
told
baby.
You, we've re-upped this the last time you was on the show.
I don't think it's gonna be a blowout. I think it's gonna be a close decision, but I got Bobby winning.
I like to tell Blake how much I like Nasrat Hackbrass all the time.
He just likes pronouncing his name.
That's
literally that's how we pick fighters half the time. It's like I just like that guy's
5
name.
syllables. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Modestus Bukauskas.
Modestus, Nasrat,
Richie Lang. No, that's not too many syllables.
Not enough for me.
The other one? Oh
no. I mean,
he always used to say a Rosenstock.
No, it's Jiri Proskaskas.
Proskaskas.
Yep, those are the three ones.
And then obviously, main card. Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker. Do you have a opinion?
Yeah.
Do you care to give it?
I like Whittaker's chances in this fight. I'm taking Izzy. That's a safe play for sure. But I don't think it's too safe. I think Robert Whittaker's a stud. He's really good. He's the next best person in that division. So I think it's kind of like in the Colby Usman case where if Usman didn't exist, Colby would be the champ.
Okay.
I think it's the same in the middleweight division for Whittaker. If Izzy didn't exist, Whittaker would be the man. He'd be the champ. I like Whittaker's chances in this fight. I think the odds are a little disrespectful. That being said, I am taking Izzy, I'm taking Izzy, but I think Whittaker can get it done. He's up until that first time they fought, he was winning the first round up until he got caught. And you can say that with a lot of things, but he got caught at the very end of that round. Then obviously we saw what happened in the second, but he's good, man. He's really good. He's very bouncy, in and out fighter, knows how to use his range and blitz fights. And that's the way you got to either fight Izzy by blitzing him or making a dogfight like Gastelum did, or wrestling like Jan Blachowicz did. So I think he's going to do all that. I think he's going to be a dog when he has to. I think he's going to blitz him when he has to, and I think he's going to wrestle.
It's good logic.
But I still have Izzy winning that fight. Gun in my head.
And Jeff, coming up, you said hopefully see you sometime around May?
Yeah, that's the plan, man.
May is the day.
That's
then
the
we
plan,
will definitely
that Jeff Molina gets paid.
We will be looking forward to it. Obviously, we'll be rooting for you. Any last words for him before he leaves, or any last words from you, Jeff?
No, thank you guys for having me. This is it's always a good time.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, for coming on. Really appreciate it again. And just thank you guys for watching these videos. If you want to go watch the last video with Carl Baby K. Robertson, he's got a big fight coming on.
Let's go.
Yeah,
How was that?
Last week.
He's the man.
It was great.
He's funny.
We had him and his friend Jay on. So
But yeah, go watch that video with Carl Robertson. Go watch the Trey Jason interview. We're going to keep pumping them out every week. Big thank you to the fighters that come in here. And we're just going to keep it rolling.
Yeah.
2022.
Huge thank you. Appreciate you. Always coming in, Jeff. Jeff Molina, flyweight superstar stud in the UFC. This has been another episode of Octagon Chronicles. Peace.
Peace.